Welcome back to Reformed Thinking.
It's good to be here.
So glad you could join us for another one of these deep dives. Today, we are tackling a piece of biblical instruction that I have to say feels like it's from another planet compared to the world we live in now.
Oh, it really does. It's a command that just cuts right against the grain of, well, almost everything our culture values.
You can say that again. I was just, scrolling through my feed this morning, and it's all about speed, acceleration, scaling up.
The 30 under 30 list.
Yes. The prodigy, the young genius who changes the world overnight. We're obsessed with it. We celebrate the person who gets there the fastest.
And that mindset has absolutely bled into the church.
Yeah.
We have this obsession with immediacy. If someone shows a spark of talent, our first impulse is to put them on a stage.
Instantly.
Instantly. It feels like waiting is wasting their potential. If you've got a gift, you should be using it in the most visible way possible right now.
But the passage we're looking at today, it functions like a giant stop sign on that impulse. We're going to be focusing on 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 6. It's the specific rule against ordaining a novice, a recent convert, to the office of elder.
And what's so arresting about it is how Paul frames it. This isn't, some helpful tip from a leadership seminar.
Right, it's not best practices.
Not at all.
Yeah.
He frames it as a life or death safeguard. He says if you ignore this, the person falls into the condemnation of the devil.
That's a phrase that should just stop all of us in our tracks, the condemnation of the devil.
Yeah.
We're going to get into what that really means later, and it's even heavier than it sounds.
It is.
But I think the big question, the why, that we want to get at today is why the Bible commands this slowness when the world screams for speed. Why is this a firewall and not just a friendly suggestion?
And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to see why spiritual maturity is a totally different category from giftedness.
Yeah.
Just because someone's talented doesn't mean they're ready. And elevating them too soon isn't kind.
It's actually dangerous.
It can be spiritually catastrophic.
We've got a good stack of sources to get through, some Greek word studies, some great theological writing, and we'll even pull in the Westminster Confession. So let's start with this concept our first source brings up, which I think just nails it. It's called the idol of immediacy.
I think that is a perfect diagnosis of the modern evangelical heart, the idol of immediacy. We want the harvest without the seasons. We want the fruit without the long, slow work of cultivation.
And the source uses this fantastic analogy from nature to explain the problem. The oak versus the mushroom.
Oh, it's such a great visual, isn't it?
It really is. So simple, but it sticks with you. Walk us through that.
Well, you think about a mushroom. You go out into the woods after a good rain, and they're just everywhere. They pop up overnight.
Yeah, you go to bed, there's nothing. You wake up,
Yeah.
and there it is, looking all finished.
Right. It looks substantial. It has volume. It takes up space. But here's the question. What's underneath the surface?
Almost nothing. A few little threads, no real root system to speak of.
Exactly. It's all surface. So what happens when the midday sun comes out and beats down on it? Or if the humidity drops?
It's gone. It just shrivels up, turns to nothing.
It dies. It can't handle the heat or the pressure because it has no deep connection to the soil, to the water down below.
Okay, so that's the mushroom.
Now, you compare that to an oak tree. An oak can take 100 years to reach maturity. For the first few years, it's just a little sapling. You could step on it.
It's not impressive. Nobody's taking a picture next to a one-year-old oak tree.
No. But while it seems to be growing so slowly above the ground, it's doing the most important work underground.
It's building the root system.
It's driving a taproot deep, deep down. It's anchoring itself, wrapping its roots around rocks, searching for those subterranean water sources that the mushroom doesn't even know exist.
So it's preparing for something it can't see yet.
It's preparing for the storm. Because when the gale force winds come, and they will come, the mushroom's just torn apart. It's gone. But the oak stands.
Not because it's lucky.
But because it's anchored. And the critique in our sources is that the modern church has, in many ways, become a mushroom farm. We are captivated by the spectacular, the sudden, the overnight success.
That hits home. You see someone who's charismatic, or they're a great speaker, or maybe they have a big social media following, and the first thought is, we have to platform this person.
We have to use their gifts.
Right. If we don't give them a title or a microphone, they might go somewhere else.
But what we're doing is confusing the leaves with the roots.
Right.
We're mistaking natural gifts for spiritual graces. Charm is not character. Eloquence is not endurance.
You can have a lot of leaves and no roots.
You absolutely can. And that's a dangerous combination.
So let's connect this back to the text itself. 1 Timothy 3.6. Paul says an overseer, an elder, must not be a novice. Can you break that word down for us? What are we looking at in the Greek?
Yeah, the Greek word is neophytos,
Neophytos.
and it's a compound word, which is really helpful. The first part, neos, just means new. The second part, phi, is a verb that means to bring forth, or to plant, or to grow.
Oh, so it's right there in the word itself.
It's right there. So a literal wooden translation would be newly planted.
Wow. So this whole agricultural metaphor, the botany of the soul, it's not something theologians are just reading into the text. Paul is thinking like a gardener.
He is. He's looking at a new convert and seeing a sapling. Now, this is a really key point. A sapling is alive.
Right.
It's in the garden. It's drawing life. We're not questioning the genuineness of the conversion. This person isn't a fake.
No, absolutely. I think that's a huge distinction. This isn't about someone pretending they have vibrant leaves, they look healthy, they love Jesus.
They look great. They're probably full of enthusiasm, maybe the most excited person at the prayer meeting. But from a structural standpoint, they lack that hidden underground root system.
And that's what's needed to bear weight.
To bear the weight of leadership, which I think we sometimes forget, is an immense weight. People see the platform. They see the authority. They don't see the burden.
They don't see the spiritual strain.
And leadership is like a magnifying glass.
Yeah.
It enlarges everything about you. It'll enlarge your strengths, for sure, but it will also enlarge your weaknesses, your character flaws, your blind spots.
So if you have a crack in your character,
Leadership will turn that crack into a canyon. It will put pressure on it until it breaks.
that's a sobering thought.
It should be. And the sources we're drawing from, they talk about these gale force winds of adversity that come with leadership.
And what are we talking about here? This isn't just having a bad week at the office.
Oh, no. This is the reality of spiritual warfare. It's the weight of carrying the sorrows of other people. It's dealing with constant criticism, both fair and unfair. It's the temptation to despair.
It's a spiritually hostile environment.
It is. So to take that sapling, that newly planted Christian, and transplant him to the top of a windy hill, which is what the eldership is, you're not doing him a favor.
You're setting him up to be destroyed.
You're killing him. And that is such a paradigm shift because, when we fast track a promising young leader, we think we're encouraging them.
We think we're saying, we believe in you, we see your calling, and we want to affirm it.
Exactly. But the sources argue that placing a new believer in a position of authority is not an act of encouragement. It's an act of spiritual cruelty.
Wow. Cruelty. That's a strong word.
It's cruelty masquerading as opportunity. We are exposing them to spiritual elements they are simply not built to withstand yet. It's like taking a toddler and asking them to carry a 100-pound backpack.
It doesn't matter how strong they are for a toddler.
No. Their skeletal structure can't handle the load. You will injure them. You will break them.
And I want to get one point of clarification in here, because I know we have listeners of all ages. When we say novice, we're not necessarily talking about a person's biological age, are we?
That is a crucial point. Paul is not talking about the number on your driver's license. I mean, remember who he's writing to. Timothy himself was a relatively young man.
Right. He tells him, let no one despise your youth. So he was probably, in his 30s? Maybe even late 20s.
It's likely. So the word neophytos refers to being young in the faith. It is about your spiritual age, not your chronological one.
So you could have a 55-year-old CEO who's run a massive company.
A Fortune 500 company. He knows how to manage 1,000 employees. He can read a balance sheet in his sleep. But if he got saved 6 months ago, he is a spiritual novice. He's a sapling.
But wait a minute, I can hear someone pushing back on that. If a guy can run a global corporation, surely he knows how to lead, right? Don't those skills transfer?
And that's the pragmatic trap we fall into. We assume leadership is this generic, transferable skill, like knowing how to use Microsoft Excel.
Well, it's not.
Leading a business and shepherding a flock are two fundamentally different things. One is built on strategy and power dynamics. The other is built on humility, patience, and utter dependence on God.
So his corporate skills might actually be a liability.
They could be. If he relies on them instead of the Spirit, he'll try to run the church like a business. He'll manage people instead of loving them. He'll crush the sheep because he doesn't know how to be a shepherd yet.
He has the executive skills, but not the gospel roots.
That's it. And on the flip side, you could have a 30-year-old plumber who has been walking with Christ through incredible trials for 15 years. He may not have a business degree, but he might be an old soul spiritually. He is not a novice.
Okay, that's a very helpful distinction. So the roots matter more than the leaves. Now let's get into the pathology. What actually happens to this novice when we make this mistake? Paul gives a very specific warning. lest he be lifted up with pride.
This is where the Greek just opens up a whole world of insight that you just don't get from the English translation. The word for lifted up with pride is typhges.
Typhus. That sounds almost like a medical term.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm.
And it has a connection to the word typhoon, but its root is the word typhus,
Typhus.
which means smoke or cloud or mist.
Smoke. You're kidding. So it's not just about having a big ego.
No, it's so much more vivid than that. The image is of a man who is wrapped in smoke or blinded by a fog. Think about, a fog machine at a rock concert.
Right.
When that smoke billows out, you can't see anything. You lose your bearings. You can't see the edge of the stage. You can't see the people around you.
You lose touch with reality.
That's it. Pride, in this Pauline sense, isn't just strutting around. It is a cognitive distortion.
Yeah.
It is a fog that obscures reality. The novice who gets promoted too soon literally cannot see himself or God or other people clearly anymore.
He's blinded by the fumes of his own perceived success.
He can't see straight.
Yeah.
And there's a grammatical detail here that the sources point out, which is just fascinating. I know grammar can seem dry, but this really changes how you read the verse. The verb is in the passive voice.
Okay, so for those of us who maybe weren't paying attention in high school English, why is the passive voice a big deal here?
The passive voice means the action is happening to the subject. It suggests that this swelling of pride is something that overtakes him. It's not that he wakes up one day and decides, you know what, I think I'll be arrogant today.
It happens to him. It's like an external force acting on him.
It is. When you take a man with shallow spiritual roots and you suddenly put him in a position of high visibility, with authority, with people praising him, with the dignity of the office, that environment itself generates this smoke.
And because he's immature.
He doesn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the spiritual ventilation system to clear it out. So he gets enveloped by it. He gets intoxicated by it.
He starts to believe his own press clippings, as they say.
He does. He starts to confuse the gifts God gave him with the fruit he hasn't yet grown. He hears people say, that was a great sermon. And a part of him starts to think, I am a great preacher, instead of God was gracious to speak through me.
This explains so much about what the sources call the celebrity convert syndrome. We see this play out all the time.
All the time. It explains it perfectly. Let's just paint the picture. You have a famous musician or an athlete or some kind of public figure, and they have a genuine conversion. And praise God for that.
Absolutely. We rejoice in that.
But the church, we often do something very dangerous. We are so starved for cultural validation. We think, oh, if we can just get this famous person on our side, the world will finally take us seriously.
So we put a microphone in their hand the next week?
We ask them to give their testimony. Then we ask them to lead a small group. Then we ask them to speak at the men's retreat. They've been a Christian for, what, a month?
We're not treating the church like a hospital for sinners. We're treating it like a fan club. We want their fame to rub off on the gospel.
And in doing that, we are pumping that typhus, that smoke, directly into their lives. We are blinding them to their own desperate need for grace and discipleship. We're telling them they're a teacher before they've even learned to be a student.
And the result is almost always tragic.
It's heartbreakingly predictable. The public deconstruction, the moral failure, the scandal.
And then everyone stands around and acts surprised. How could this happen? He was so on fire for the Lord.
But we shouldn't be surprised at all. We took a sapling and we planted it in the middle of a hurricane. We took someone who needed the quiet safety of the nursery and we shoved them onto the front lines of a spiritual war.
It's pastoral malpractice.
And Paul says this whole tragic process leads to the condemnation of the devil.
Crema tu.
Diablo, that phrase. It sounds incredibly serious. When I first hear it, I think of, demonic attack or something.
This is where we get into the theological deep end of the pool. And we need to spend some time here, because this is where the real gravity of Paul's warning lands.
So what does of the devil mean? Is the devil accusing him? Is he setting a trap for him?
Well, there's a grammatical debate here. Some scholars argue for what's called the subjective genitive,
Okay.
which would mean it's the condemnation that comes from the devil. The devil is the source. So he sets a trap of pride, and the novice falls into it.
That makes sense on the surface. It does. But the majority of Reformed commentators and the sources we're looking at lean very heavily in the other direction, toward the objective genitive.
Okay, so break that down for us. Objective genitive.
Think of it this way. If I say the judgment of the court, I mean the judgment the court pronounced on someone.
The sentence they receive.
Right. So the condemnation of the devil would mean the novice falls into the same kind of judgment that the devil himself received.
Whoa, okay, that is a whole different level of serious. He's not just being tricked by Satan, he's repeating Satan's own story.
He is, in a sense, reenacting the devil's own fall. To get our heads around this, we have to go way back, before Genesis 3. We have to look at the fall of Satan himself, which we get glimpses of in places like Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel 28.
Right, Satan wasn't created as this monstrous figure.
Not at all. He was created as perhaps the highest of all angelic beings, the seal of perfection, full of wisdom, perfect in beauty, a creature of incredible power and glory.
So what was the original sin? What went wrong?
He couldn't handle his own glory. He had an aspiring heart. You can hear it in the language of Isaiah 14. It's this repetitive chorus of, I will
ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God.
I will sit on the Mount of Assembly. I will make myself like the Most High. It's the ultimate power trip. It's a creature refusing to be a creature.
And that, right there, is the essence of pride.
It's the mother of all heresies. The very first sin in the universe wasn't murder or theft. It was pride, a desire to take God's place.
And the result was immediate and catastrophic judgment.
You are brought down to Sheol, to the far reaches of the pit. He tried to ascend, so God cast him down.
Okay, so now connect that cosmic story back to the new elder in the small church. How does he fit into this?
This is the frightening implication. By ordaining a novice, by taking a man who is not ready and artificially lifting him up, giving him status, authority, praise, the church is, in effect, tempting that man to repeat the primordial sin of the adversary.
We're handing him the devil's script.
We are. We are placing him in a position of glory without the necessary ballast of humility that comes from years of being humbled by God. We're fanning the flames of the very sin that turned an archangel into the devil.
And we know from Scripture that God opposes the proud.
He gives grace to the humble, but he actively opposes the proud. So the condemnation is to be cast down. God will not share his glory with another. If a novice, puffed up with pride, begins to act like he is the source of his own gifts, God will oppose him. And to be opposed by God is to be crushed.
So Paul's prohibition isn't about being restrictive or, keeping people down.
It's about saving a man's soul. He's saying, don't put this brother in a position where he is tempted to reenact the fall of Satan.
This connects so deeply with our Reformed understanding of sin, doesn't it? Because someone from a different tradition might say, well, hold on, he's a Christian now. He has the Holy Spirit. He's not going to act like Satan.
And that's a well-meaning but naive view of sanctification. The Westminster Confession is so helpful here. In chapter 6, section 5, it talks about how even in the regenerate, in the true believer, there remain remnants of corruption.
Remnants of corruption. That's a vivid phrase.
It is. It means the war against sin has been decisively won at the cross, but skirmishes and battles continue to break out in our hearts every day. Indwelling sin is still active.
We're not perfected yet. That old nature is still there, kicking and screaming.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
Now, you think about a seasoned saint, an older godly elder. He has spent decades in what the Puritans called the mortification of sin.
Mortification, that means making dead.
Right, killing sin. He has been in the trenches, fighting a long war against his own pride, his own selfishness, his own ego. He knows he's weak. He has been humbled by God's discipline time and time again. He has failed and been restored.
He has scars. He knows from experience that he is not God.
He has scars. He walks with a limp, like Jacob after wrestling with the angel. But the novice, he hasn't fought that long war yet. He might know the doctrine of depravity from a book, but he hasn't felt the sting of his own persistent pride over years and years.
So when you give him authority,
you are pouring spiritual gasoline on those remnants of corruption. Authority acts as an accelerant to his remaining sin. If there's a pocket of pride he hasn't dealt with yet, the office will cause it to explode.
Okay, so the danger is crystal clear. We have the botany, the pathology, the theology, but let's get practical. What does not a novice actually look like? I can just hear a listener thinking, okay, is there a number? Do I have to wait 5 years, 10 years? Give me the checklist.
And that's the tricky part, because the Bible deliberately doesn't give us a stopwatch. That would just lead to a new kind of legalism.
You must be a Christian for 7.5 years before you can be an elder.
Right. And it's not about gray hair either. That would be ageism, and we already said Timothy was young. And it's not about having a seminary degree, which would be a form of intellectualism.
So if it's not a number of years, or gray hairs, or a diploma, what is the true metric?
The true metric, according to the sources, is time observed.
Time observed. Okay, unpack that. What does that mean?
It means there needs to be a sufficient track record for the church to observe a man's character over time and through different seasons. The writer to the Hebrews says in chapter 5 that maturity belongs to those who have their powers of discernment trained by constant practice.
Constant practice. That implies repetition. It implies a pattern over time.
It implies a track record. You need to see how a man handles prosperity and how he handles adversity. You can't know if a man is steadfast, as James says, until his faith has been tested.
You don't know if the ship is seaworthy until you've seen it go through a few storms.
Exactly. Anyone can look like a great Christian when life is good, the job is secure, and the family is healthy. But what happens when tragedy strikes? What happens when he gets that phone call in the middle of the night?
So if I'm on a search committee or an elder board, what are some of those positive markers I should be looking for beyond just he's a good communicator?
You're looking for stability under pressure. Has this man walked through suffering and come out with his faith intact? Or did he become bitter and cynical? If he's married and has children, has he parented in a way that has earned his children's respect over the long haul? That takes years of patient faithfulness.
And what about service? The sources talk about the gymnasium of humility, which is a phrase I just love.
It's a great phrase. The gymnasium of humility is where you build the spiritual muscles that allow you to handle the weight of authority without it crushing you or puffing you up. And real preparation for eldership doesn't happen in the pulpit.
It's not the stuff that gets you noticed.
No. It looks like stacking chairs when the service is over and everyone else has gone home. It looks like cleaning the church bathrooms because the janitor is sick. It looks like consistently visiting the elderly shut-in who can offer you nothing in return.
It's the unseen, unnoticed, unglamorous work.
It's the work that kills pride. A man who thinks he is too gifted or too important for that kind of menial labor is, by definition, too proud to be a shepherd of God's people.
That's a powerful litmus test right there. If a man says, "My calling is to preach, not to plunge toilets,"
he has just disqualified himself. And on the flip side, we should also be looking for the negative markers, the red flags.
Okay, give us some of those.
A craving to be seen and noticed. A man who talks far more than he listens. In a meeting, is he the guy who always has to have the last word?
That's a big one.
Defensiveness when corrected. Can this man receive criticism even if it's delivered imperfectly, or does he immediately get his back up?
The person who can't just say, "You're right, I was wrong, please forgive me."
Yes. Or they tried to spin it so it wasn't really their fault. And there's one more the sources mention that is so insightful. Doctrinal swagger.
Doctrinal swagger. I think I know that guy.
We've all met him. It's confidence that is out of proportion to character. It's the young guy who learns a bit of theology. Maybe he just discovered the doctrines of grace, and suddenly he wants to argue with everyone. He uses truth as a weapon to win debates, rather than as a balm to heal souls.
He's a theological bouncer, not a gentle shepherd.
Precisely. That is the classic mark of a novice. He has the information, but he does not yet have the heart of Christ.
Now, I have to play devil's advocate for a minute. I can hear the desperate church planter listening to this. He's saying, look, you guys don't get it. I'm in a tough city. We have no money. We have no staff. We're setting up and tearing down in a school gym every single Sunday. And this sharp, energetic guy walks in. He's a leader in his field, and he wants to help lead the church. Are you really telling me I have to say, thanks, but no thanks, come back in 3 to 5 years? That feels like rejecting a gift from God. We need leaders and now W.
I hear that, and I feel the weight of that pressure. But that is the pragmatism objection. It's the belief that if it seems to work, it must be right, or that a desperate need gives us permission to bend God's rules.
But isn't necessity the mother of invention?
Maybe in business, but not in the kingdom of God. In the kingdom, obedience is the mother of blessing. And the sources are very blunt here, they say. Scarcity does not nullify a divine command. Just because you are starving does not give you permission to eat poison.
Ooh, that is stark.
And Paul links this directly to pastoral integrity in 1 Timothy 5.22. He tells Timothy, do not be hasty in the laying on of hands, nor take part in the sins of others.
So if I ordain a man who isn't ready, and he flames out and hurts the church, I'm complicit in that.
You share in the guilt. The laying on of hands isn't just a ceremony. It's an act of public endorsement. You are putting your stamp of approval on that man's character. If he's a spiritual time bomb, you help light the fuse.
It's better to have no elders than the wrong elders.
Far better. It is better to go slow and stay small and be healthy than to grow fast and big and then explode.
What about the other big objection? But he's just so gifted. We're wasting his talent if we make him wait. God gave him these gifts to be used for the kingdom.
That goes right back to the beginning, to that confusion between ability and stability. And a great biblical example of this is Apollos in the book of Acts.
Apollos, the eloquent preacher from Alexandria.
That's him. The text says he was mighty in the scriptures, he was fervent in spirit, he was incredibly gifted. But when Priscilla and Aquila, these two faithful lay people, heard him preach,
They realized something was missing.
they realized his theology was incomplete. He only knew the baptism of John. So what did they do? Did they say, wow, let's get this guy a bigger platform?
No, they took him aside quietly.
They took him home with them and explained to him the way of God more accurately. He was gifted, but he needed discipleship. He needed to be taught.
A bright flame is not the same thing as a steady lamp.
That's a great way to put it. The church needs oaks of righteousness, not shooting stars. Shooting stars are brilliant for a moment, but they burn out fast and they leave nothing but darkness behind.
What about the Paul objection? I hear this one a lot. What about the Apostle Paul? He got saved on the road to Damascus and started preaching in the synagogues almost immediately.
That's a common but slightly inaccurate reading of his life. First, Paul was a unique foundational apostle, so we have to be careful about making him the norm. But even Paul didn't go straight from conversion to his major ministry.
You're talking about the silent years.
I am. Between his conversion and when the church in Antioch sent him out on his first missionary journey, there's a gap of probably 10 to 14 years.
A decade. Wow.
A decade where he was in Arabia and then back in his hometown of Tarsus. God, in his wisdom, kept the Apostle Paul in relative obscurity for over a decade to prepare him.
If God made Paul wait, I suppose we can ask the 25-year-old business major to wait a little while.
I think that's a safe assumption. We cannot use extraordinary exceptions to overturn ordinary rules.
There's one more modern error the sources highlight that I think is really relevant, especially with the generation gaps in the church. They call it the Rehoboam error.
Ah, yes. From 1 Kings 12. Such a tragic, avoidable story.
Remind us of what happened there.
Solomon dies, and his son Rehoboam takes the throne. The people come to him and ask for a lighter tax burden. So Rehoboam goes to the old men, the elders who had advised his father Solomon.
And their counsel is wise. They say, be a servant to the people, lighten their load, and they'll serve you forever.
Wise, humble counsel.
Yeah.
But then he goes and asks his peers, the young men who had grown up with him.
His buddies, his entourage.
And they give him the exact opposite advice. They say, no way, you need to show them who's boss. Tell them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. It's all about dominance and power.
And Rehoboam listens to the young guys.
He does. He rejects the counsel of the elders for the rash advice of his friends. And the result?
It split the kingdom in two, permanently.
It was a national disaster. And the source connects this to our modern idol of generational relevance. We have this pervasive idea that a 25-year-old is automatically better suited to lead other 25-year-olds just because he's relatable.
Because he knows the memes, he gets the culture.
Right. But relatability is not a substitute for wisdom. Relatability might draw a crowd, but it's wisdom and character that will keep a church faithful to the gospel over the long haul. We cannot trade the tested counsel of the elders for the impulsive ideas of the novice just to seem cool.
So, we've spent a lot of time on the law. The prohibition, don't do this, don't be a novice, don't be proud. It's heavy stuff. But let's pivot now to the gospel, because the law says you are too young, you are too weak, you are too proud. The gospel has to have a better word for us.
It does. The gospel points us away from ourselves to the ultimate non-novice.
Great.
He is the plant of renown, the root of Jesse. He wasn't a mushroom that sprang up overnight. He is the ancient oak of eternity. And think about his life. At 12 years old, he's in the temple. And he's astounding, the greatest religious teachers of his day with his wisdom.
He knew more than all of them combined. He was God in the flesh.
He could have launched his public ministry right then and there. He could have said, all right, I'm ready. I'm the Messiah. Let's get this started.
But he didn't. What did he do instead?
The text says he went back down to Nazareth with his parents and was submissive to them. He went home, and for the next 18 years, he worked in a carpenter shop. He swept sawdust. He built yokes and tables.
18 years of total obscurity for the Son of God.
The creator of the cosmos spent 30 years in hidden faithfulness before faith. He spent 3 years in public ministry. He waited. He embraced the long, slow path.
Why? Why would he wait so long?
To fulfill all righteousness for us. He accepted the discipline of obscurity that we are so desperate to avoid. He sanctified the waiting room. He showed us that true greatness is found not in the public platform, but in quiet, humble faithfulness.
And while Satan, who was, in a sense, the original proud novice, tried to ascend.
Jesus descended. That's the heart of Philippians 2. He did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself. He went down into the womb, down to the manger, down to the cross.
And on that cross, he takes on that terrifying phrase from earlier.
He does. On the cross, Jesus absorbs the condemnation of the devil. He takes the divine judgment that our pride, our cosmic treason, deserves. He was lifted up on a cross in shame and agony so that we would not have to be lifted up in pride to our own destruction.
That's the great reversal. He takes the smoke of judgment so we can breathe the clear air of grace.
And that is such good news for the person who feels called to leadership but is stuck in a season of waiting.
It really is. It changes the whole perspective on it.
It means you don't need a title to validate your existence. Your identity is not pastor or elder or leader. If you are in Christ, your identity is already beloved child of God. You are a son of the King. The verdict is in.
So the restriction that, no, not yet, it's not a punishment. It's actually a form of protection.
It's a severe mercy. God is saying to that aspiring leader, I love you too much to let you carry a weight that would crush you. I love you too much to let you reenact the devil's fall. I'm going to protect you and hide you and grow you in secret for a while.
He's not forgetting you.
He's forging you. He's giving you time to grow those deep roots in the soil of his grace without the pressures of public performance. He is patiently making you into an oak.
It's not a barrier, it's a greenhouse.
It's the greenhouse of God. Exactly.
So as we wrap this up, let's bring it all home. The sources leave us with a final, very probing thought, a diagnostic question for anyone who is frustrated by a season of waiting. If you feel ready, but the church is saying not yet, you need to ask yourself this one question.
Are you eager for the work of the ministry? Or are you just eager for the status of the office?
That's the question right there.
Because the work of the ministry, the praying, the serving, the loving, the steadying, the bearing of burdens, you can start doing that right now. No one needs to vote you in to allow you to pray for a sick brother. No one needs to give you a title to let you study the Bible with a younger believer.
You don't need a title to serve.
And if you find you're only willing to do the work if you get the title, that reveals your heart. It shows you're not seeking the grind, you're seeking the glory. And that, ironically, is the clearest possible sign that you are not ready.
The answer to that question tells you everything. If you are content to serve faithfully in the shadows, you might just be growing the roots that will one day be able to withstand the storm.
Amen to that.
Let's be a people who value the slow growth of the oak over the sudden appearance of the mushroom. Trusting God's timing is hard, but it's always good. Thank you for listening to Reformed Thinking.
Grace and peace.